There's a very interesting story that has sort of emerged out of the Hunter Biden laptop story. So just to recapitulate, Hunter Biden left his laptop at a computer repair store. He never picked it up, and eventually the computer ended up in the hands of the FBI, but a copy of it was provided to the New York Post. They broke the Hunter Biden story about the Hunter Biden emails. Now, shortly after that, 50 intelligence officers basically signed a statement in which they questioned the legitimacy of this Hunter Biden story. They said that this may not have been Hunter Biden's laptop at all. They implied that this was Russian disinformation. Their statement was quoted in an article by Politico that said it was Russian disinformation. And now it turns out that Hunter Biden's laptop, in fact, it was pretty well known even at the time, is real. So now that the New York Times has confirmed it, the Washington Post has confirmed it, the New York Post went back to all these 50 intelligence officers and said, well, what do you say now? And most of them were in hiding. They won't return phone calls. They have no statement to make. But interestingly, one of them, this is John Cipher. He's a former senior operations officer at the CIA. He wrote a recent post on Twitter that says this: I take special pride in personally swinging the election away from Trump. And when Republicans said, in effect, that he cost Trump, that this suppression of the Hunter Biden story and the credibility of these 50 intelligence officers saying that's Russian disinformation, he goes, quote, this is Cipher, I lost the election for Trump? Well, then I feel pretty good about my influence. So he could be here engaging in a little bit of boasting. But I think what's really interesting is that here you have a guy who essentially used his title and the title of others like him. They all prostituted their influence and their titles by testifying to something that is now known to be false. And far from showing any sense of devotion to the truth, integrity, a certain sense of, you know what, I didn't want Trump to win, but, this was not the way to go about it. And turns out that we made false statements about him. The laptop was, in fact, legitimate. No, this guy is actually celebrating the fact that his lies worked. Kind of reminds me a little bit about when the Democratic majority leader, who was it, honey? The guy who was making comments about Romney. Wasn't it Harry Reid, I think it was? He was lying about Romney, and later when his lies were exposed, he's like, well, it worked, didn't it? Romney lost the election, didn't he? So here was Harry Reid in gangster fashion taking credit for lies, and I think this guy, John Cipher, doing exactly the same thing. And I think it shows the way in which a lot of these intelligence officers are untrustworthy characters. And in this particular case, it's one thing if they use their kind of Machiavellian personalities to the benefit of the United States, to fortify our defenses, I suppose. In some ways, they're trained in lying. That's what it means a little bit to be some sort of a spy. But it's another whole thing when with a straight face and with no justification whatsoever, you lie to the American people themselves.